Hi, I'm Joseph Fuentes, Instructional Enrichment and Intervention Specialist and KOI Trainer. I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready to get back to the classroom and I'm excited. But I know that classroom management is going to be extremely important as we walk on these new waters. So let's talk about welcoming students back. Our goal today is to talk about how we can be proactive versus reactive. And there is one thing I want to start with, and that is classroom culture. The classroom culture can help set the tone for a successful year. Some of those things that you can do are greeting your students at the door every morning or after lunch. My students loved it, and it gave me a lot of information about them. It was always a good morning or a high five, which might look a little different this year, a silly dance, but it always told me how they were feeling as they entered the classroom, and I knew when I needed to check in on a student. Now, the other thing you need to do is learn your student's name. That first week is crucial. I always challenge to have their names down by the end of that week. I also don't give nicknames because their name is who they are. It's part of them. So if I can't pronounce it, I'm going to practice it until I get it right. That is part of building a culture where everyone is accepted and welcomed. Now, we also need to spend some time learning about their families. My family looks a lot different than maybe yours does. I grew up with grandparents and 4 sisters. Some of my students might grow up with an aunt or uncle, they might grow up with a mom and dad, or they might be in 2 homes going back and forth. It helps me to understand their home and them as a student. I also like to learn about their hobbies. What do they enjoy? How can I make connections to the learning that we're doing in the classroom? What do they like and dislike? And it might be about school, it might be about personalities, it might be about things that happen on campus or at home. I also like to spend time learning about their previous learning experiences. This is extremely important because it tells me where they are with learning. Some students may have had bad experiences that will really harm their learning in the classroom. And so I do my best to focus on those areas. How do I support them to re-engage them with the learning in those areas that maybe they're not too fond about? I want them to fall in love with learning, and I can do that by knowing where they struggle. Community circles is another big one for me. In my classroom, we circle up daily. We use questions to help us start the dialogue. How are we feeling today? Are there issues that we need to resolve within our classroom? Are there things we want to share that are happening at home? Are we celebrating a birthday? Or did someone start a sport they want to share about? This is a great time to create a culture where we lift each other up and support each other, but we also problem solve with any issues we're having. And most importantly, as the educator, we need to be honest and sincere. Our kids know when we're not. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to struggle, but own it and apologize when you need to. The students need to know that we are human just like them. Now, I want to start with expectations because this is extremely important. You might be in a PBIS school or not, and that's okay. Regardless, you need to have expectations. For me, it's always to be caring, respectful, and responsible. Now, you might think about, well, what is caring? Because caring to me might look a lot different than to my student. Responsible and respectful might look very different. So not only do we need expectations, but we need to know what are those skills that students need to be successful with following those expectations. I always remember Dr. Flores sharing about her family. When they eat dinner, they're loud, they're screaming, they're having a great time at the kitchen table, but that's probably not an acceptable way of talking or eating in a restaurant. And it's the same thing for our students. What they do at home may not be what we want them to do in the classroom, so we have to teach them with those skills. When I give a writing assignment, I don't expect them to just know it. I teach them. I provide them with support, and I give them feedback. It's the same thing with expectations and skills. I help support them so that they're successful. Now, when I think about expectations, I think about what kind of culture do I want in my classroom. I want to foster an environment where everyone feels safe to take risks and to learn. And we can do that by setting the tone with our expectations from the first day. Also, we need to focus on positive behaviors, explaining the expectations in a positive manner. I remember my first year, it was a lot of don't do this and don't do that. And that's exhausting. So focus on how can we help them learn the skill. For example, the expectation is to raise your hand when you want to add to the discussion so everyone has an opportunity. It just helps set the tone for what you're doing. Now, we also need to talk about routines. Sometimes we think about routines and we forget that what's normal to us or what we think we know is going to be the same for our students. And that's not always true. When I think about routines, I go to the smallest little things. I'm going to talk about the pencil sharpener because that is not my favorite part of the classroom. I remember my first year teaching in the middle of instruction while being observed, a student pushing that pencil into the sharpener, distracting the class from learning. So I had to create a routine. We use the pencil sharpener the first 15 minutes of class. After that, I have a bin where they can take a pencil when they need it. Routines should cover every part of your classroom, from lining up to transitioning from classroom to classroom or transitioning from the desk to the carpet area. Our students need to know exactly how to do that. The most important part is you need to connect your routines to your expectations. For example, thank you for being caring and coming to the carpet nice and neat, pushing in your chair. That's allowing us to keep a safe environment. So make sure you make those connections with your expectations and your routines. Now, we can also not forget about the importance of teaching expectations. Our students are not going to learn them on their own. We not only need to teach, but we should model. What does that look like and what does that sound like? I know for me, I love using skits and having students practice them and show them to the classroom. I also love giving them non-examples and then they get to help me correct it. But I would never have them do the non-example because I do not want to teach that skill to them. Now, always think about what does it look like and what does it sound like in order to support students. Give them the opportunity to practice and let them continue to learn and grow by you providing feedback. And that feedback can be through reinforcing the expectation or reteaching the expectation. The last thing I want to share is it comes down to your planning and academics. Is the task rigorous enough for them to complete it with the support, or are they going to be so challenged that they're struggling? That can cause problems. So think about the level of supports that you're providing your students. Are you providing opportunities for them to engage? Students need opportunities to discuss and to develop ideas. Let them learn from each other. Kagan structures are something that I use in my classroom, and they really help me to teach students how to interact at an academic level. So, some of the things that we need to remember is, what are our expectations? What kind of classroom do we want to look like and sound like? What culture are we trying to create for our students and ourselves? What routines must we address? And how can we use learning to truly impact the classroom? If we set the foundation now, routines, expectations, and classroom and climate culture, we will get more learning in the school year than having to go back and address behaviors. Thank you.